This episode of the Lead Machine Growth Show is brought to you by Lead Machine, the step-by-step, tech-easy system for getting leads online. Are you struggling to get leads from your lead magnet? Are you tired of seeing low conversion rates and losing potential customers? It's time to revive your lead magnet and start attracting more leads. Download our free report, 10 Deadly Lead Magnet Mistakes That Are Costing You Leads, and learn how to create a high-converting lead magnet that engages your audience and drives conversions. Don't let common mistakes hold you back any longer. Revive your lead magnet today and download your free report at www.getleadmachine.com/deadly. Welcome to the Lead Machine Growth Show, where you will discover how to tackle your tech, master your message, and design your dream. Paul Guyan, the mastermind behind the Lead Machine, introduces you to trailblazers who inspire you to implement life-changing solutions and systems you can model to nurture your leads and get your offers seen by your ideal clients who will invest in themselves and you. Be sure you visit our website at www.leadmachinegrowthshow.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, tune in and get ready to transform your vision into reality.
Welcome to the Lead Machine Growth Show, where passion meets entrepreneurship and dreams become reality. I'm Paul Guyan, your lead machine coach, host, international best-selling author, and tech and marketing and operations expert. I'm passionate about my God-given mission to help entrepreneurs, coaches, and solopreneurs tackle their tech, master their message, and design their dream. Are you ready to unleash your full potential and achieve extraordinary results? Well, I hope so, because you're in the right place. Today, we'll dive deep into strategies, insights, and stories of trailblazers like my guest, who have overcome the obstacles of technology, marketing, and mindset, and are making a huge impact on their audience and customers. So buckle up and get ready for an exhilarating ride filled with inspiration, motivation, and practical advice. Whether you're just starting out or looking to take your business to the next level, let's get this conversation started and turn your dreams into reality. And thanks for tuning in. In today's episode, we'll explore the successful secrets of planning a business and starting from the bottom up, how that can help you build a winning plan in a successful business. My guest today is my friend and private mastermind client, the business plan answer man, David Brown. I first met Dave at the Mind Capture Boot Camp in, I believe it was 2011. And since then, Dave and I have not only shared some great moments helping others grow and profit in our Ultimate Mastermind group, but we've also become friends. And on a personal, a very private note, really, Dave twice came to my assistance as my brother in Christ when I was mourning the death of my brother Greg, and then my mother in 2016. Thank you, Dave. He showed up both times to support me and the family at a great time of need, and I really do appreciate that, my friend. So let me introduce to you Mr. Dave Brown, the business plan answer man. A leader in business planning, his methods are designed to help entrepreneurs understand the need of a business plan and remove the fear and pain in writing the plan. An in-demand speaker and consultant who has helped many clients write their business plans to meet the requirements of lenders and operate their businesses. Sharing his 30-plus years of owning and operating a business, he saves entrepreneurs time and money. His business experience as an insurance agency owner and entrepreneur, along with his experience as a 20-year-plus president of a large nonprofit board of directors, has provided a wealth of knowledge to share with those who work with him. His first book, From the Bottom Up, The Ultimate Guide for Business Planning to Profitability, is a step-by-step guide for writing a business plan in a no-nonsense format. His second book, Journeys to Success, 21 Empowering Stories Inspired by the Success Principles of Napoleon Hill, released in March of 2016, became an international bestseller on its release. And I'm also in that book too, Dave. Both books have received stunning reviews from a wide range of leaders in business, marketing, and sales. Adding to his list of books is The Secret to Managing a High-Performing Health Center, based on the success principles of Napoleon Hill, which is geared towards the governance of federally qualified health centers. Interesting. These principles can be applied to any business or organization. And also, how to write a business plan lenders will love, will walk an entrepreneur through the process of deciding if starting a business is right for them, and if so, how to write the plan. His works have been featured in Blog Talk Radio, Bold Radio, Partners in Success Radio, eHeroes podcast, the Business Creators Radio Show, Living Fearlessly with Lisa McDonald, and many, many more. Besides his work in the business world as mentor to new business owners, he has served in local government as well as a former Boy Scout leader and currently is chair of the County Emergency Medical Authority. He believes in giving back to the community and helping others succeed. David Brown, thank you so much for coming. Welcome, my friend.
Thank you very much, and thank you for those kind words. It's always an honor and pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you so much. The pleasure is mine. Dave, how did you become the business plan answer man in the first place? You've got quite a long list of accomplishments there, and I know you've been a seasoned veteran of business. So how did that all come to be?
Well, it started out when I wrote the first book, from the bottom up. I went by the average Joe because I was the other people that moved from a corporate setting to entrepreneur. And so everybody else, we had to re-educate and relearn. And over all that time for the last 12 years, I've been studying how to hone my craft, as it were, and learn so much more from all the work that I help my clients do. And I kind of tell them it's selfish because I learn every time I write a business plan. But over time, with all the education through self-development, seminars, whatever the case may be, I've grown my skill set to become that go-to business plan answer man.
Well, you must have had a lot of experience writing plans before you became known as the average Joe or the business plan answer man. How did that come to be?
Well, I had quite a few that I've done helping other people. When I wrote the first book, we had when I worked for the insurance company, we were basically franchises. We worked for a captive company, so we could only sell through that company. And they came out, all the agents in the state, and says, we want a full-blown business plan. Because I have a piece here, I have a piece here, and I have a piece here. I just brought them into one document. And when I did that, we had some of the newer folks that says, how do we do this? How do I do this? I don't know how to write this. Oh, we're sitting through there, and they both came in. After about 2 pots of coffee and some time goes by, I'm asking all these questions, and they say, how do I write my business plan? I says, write down what you just told me for the last 2 hours, because that is what your business plan is. It's how you're going to operate and build your business. Then both of them, and he says, you ought to be teaching this. Well, ding, ding, light bulb went off, and that's how I started writing the book. And then sitting at a event, talking to one of our mutual friends, Mr. Zalas, we're sitting there talking about what I did, the same story. And he says, you're just like every other average Joe out there. Well, that stuck with me. It started because, everybody you talk to are getting laid off at Ford's or General Motors or Chrysler, or they're retiring, but they're too young to retire. So one thing led to another, and here I am today, carrying on my process of helping people I've been doing for many, many moons.
Yeah. Excellent story. So what are some of the issues that entrepreneurs have with business planning? You mentioned there's some fear involved.
Well, it's fear and anxiety. A lot of people say, how do I do this? Where do I get the information? What's it look like? Or they get that stress going because it's overwhelming to some people because they're thinking of this great big document that they got to create. They forget and don't oversee sometimes it's a simple 1 or 2 page document.
Oh.
Actually seen them on cocktail napkins. Wouldn't recommend it, but I've seen them that way.
Yeah.
But so they get that fear going, about digging into this. And so I help them take that concept of what they need to do and break it down into bite-sized steps. So we're only going to focus on one little piece at a time. So setting this vision off to the side of what it's going to be and just focus on one little task. And it gets them comfortable because now all they're focusing on is a small bite.
Right. And so that helps kind of reduce the stress of the whole thing and thinking about, I know when I think about having to create something that's going to be really big, I create a mind map or some sort of outline, or I assume you have some sort of template that you follow, a structured way to walk someone through the planning process, which is how I teach in my lead machine programs and challenges that I run. And it does really help to break down the steps into smaller chunks. Don't you agree that providing your client with a template is or a step-by-step way is the way to go?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
For some, especially if it's your first one,
Uh-huh.
don't know how to do it. You go out and you can buy all these books off the shelf. And I've done that in early days of my career. And I was more confused when I got done reading them than I was when I finished or before I started. So I'm saying, hey, this is crazy. I want something plain English, as one of my college professors used to say, no big words like delicatessen. And so I just took it that way. All right, we're going to focus on your mission. So we just focus. We don't think about anything else but, your mission to your business. Why are you in business? Then we get that done. We take that. I'm still old school. I use paper, set it off to the side. We move on to the vision and all the way through. So we've got a format and we're all in order. And then when we get done, then we've got to fill in a blank template. What goes underneath this heading, where this goes. And it just gives them that roadmap to follow to put it all together.
So this might be an obvious question, but why is it having a business plan important? Is it just to get financing, or why have a plan? Shouldn't you just go and do it?
There have been some. The rarity of those being successful or small. What happens, everybody says, a lot of them think, well, I know what I'm doing. I don't need a business plan. Well, that's the first thing, because what happens is, and you could probably attest to the numbers more than I can, but we're bombarded by so much information every day. The advertising messages are hitting us in the head, plus our daily life. If I had my plan up here, it would be long gone by 10 minutes into my day, because everything else hitting it. So that gives me that track that I'm going to follow. And as we write stuff out, we tend to make them happen.
Right.
We go back in school, we always wrote out all our work from school. And so all that helped get us to the point that we needed to in school, but it's the same concept. Write it down. And for one, you don't have to worry about forgetting it because it's right here. And then if you got somebody helping you, you could say, all right, here's what we're going to do. And it's easier to follow if it's written out. And whether you're going to get financing or not, it's just a good idea to have that roadmap.
So in a way, a business plan is really a goal setting kind of exercise, isn't it?
It's very tied into the goals, because we got to know where we want to go. We need to know why we're in business, how we're going to do it, but then where are we going to reach for the stars and not get there? But so many people says, well, my goal is to have money in my pocket at the end of the month.
Yeah,
that can still be a challenge, but ultimately we want to have our goals laid out and how we're going to reach them and how we're going to track them. And so definitely, this is your goal setting sheet, because financially or sales goals, whatever the case may be, those are all part and parcel of your business plan.
Right. I've worked with very large companies and very small companies, and as they grow, there's something that happens when they get to a certain size, and at each plateau or each level where they grow to a certain level of people or profits or gross sales, they need to retool their business. Don't you agree that do they have to write a new plan that represents their growth? And it's not just a one-time thing, isn't it? It's an ongoing process, isn't it?
Exactly. It's a living, breathing document, as I like to say, is right.
Uh-huh.
I mean, when you reach your goals, well, you got to set new goals. So then you just update your business plan. I was just talking to my daughter this weekend when she was home. She works for a startup out in Colorado, and her boss is basically redoing the business plan for their business every 2 to 3 months because they're achieving the levels that they wanted.
Huh.
And
Wow.
so it's a constant motion. So that way everybody's on that same page, chapter and verse. And that's basically, another reason that we want to have a plan. So we're not all going off in different directions. We've got a focus that's going to drive the business.
The other thing I've noticed with growing businesses is that the founders usually have a specific values and morals and way that they want to treat customers, the way that they want to treat their employees, the way that they want to treat their suppliers and vendors. And a lot of times what happens is as they grow, they lose that core value. How can you incorporate those kinds of values and morals into your plan so that they don't get lost or so you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, basically? Do you see that too?
I do. I see, sometimes success changes people.
Yeah.
They're indifferent. And one of the things that, I always tell people that we want to have, what are our core values? We all have lines in the sand that we won't cross.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're going in a different direction than what our beliefs run. And, we can probably sit back and name one or two that we won't do business with them because we don't like the way we were treated. And if that's the key focus is, I like to refer back to the golden rule. I want to treat you like you're going to treat me. And so that's the core principle. And I always had to believe that unless somebody is dead, we can pretty well fix almost everything. May not be 100% to where it was before a mistake happened, but we can come to a solution mutually that's going to at least satisfy all the parties involved. And so we just move forward and focus on how we want to do that. But yeah, it's very common to see, especially as you get into these huge multi-million-dollar corporations, sometimes that goes to people's heads because they're very successful.
Yeah, and they take their eye off the ball. There's a company called MCI. I'm not sure if they're still in business, but they're a phone company and a communications company. And in 2013, my mom, who passed in 2016, I became the power of attorney, and I managed her business affairs because she was having trouble with just keeping track of everything. And so I kind of stepped in and helped her out. And so I contacted and added my contact information so that I could pay her bills. And so I added myself to her accounts and whatnot. And I contacted MCI, and I got their call center in the Philippines. And I told them what I just told you. I'm handling my mom's affairs now. I'm taking care of her bills and whatnot. And this was just before Christmas 2013. Well, they turned her phone off. They shut her phone off because they thought that she was dead. And so it took me 23 days of calling, trying to explain to them, no, I just wanted to do this. And they had no way, there was no way that that call center could escalate it to someone in corporate that could actually handle the problem. After 23 days of, my mom would call me on her cell phone, and she could barely use that because of her hearing and whatnot, and she just was tech illiterate at the time. She would call me crying. This is the day before Christmas. They cut her off, and so she couldn't communicate with her family, and she had a heck of a time with that cell phone. And so the moral of the story is you've got to build a business that won't make your mama cry, because it made her cry a lot. And finally, I got through to someone at corporate and chastised them a little bit and got her phone turned back on. We've had that phone number for 52 years, and I would never recommend them. And in fact, I don't think they're in business anymore. I just haven't checked. But that's an example of how a small company, which, I'll bet the founders of that company never ever dreamed that they would do such a thing, or they probably cared about people, and they built this business that they wanted to help people and enable them to communicate and all those things. But somewhere along the line, when they outsourced their call center and when they did lots of things, they alienated their customers and they stopped caring. Now the people in the Philippines were super nice and trying to be helpful, but there was no way and they could speak English too. There was no way that they could escalate the call. They had no way in their playbook. So their playbook, their procedures, their processes, their business plan failed. And it made my mama cry.
I've got this vision now of having met your mother, the situation. But it's not uncommon, because if they do have these procedures in place, some of these folks don't have the authority to do that. So they can do this stuff here, but they're not given the authority to make a decision. And which is, the wrong message. It's when I had my insurance agency, my staff, I said, okay, here's the way it works. This is what you can do on your own. All I ask is tell me what happened, how it happened, and what are we doing to prevent it from happening again?
Right.
And so turn it into a learning situation, because we're all human. And was very cautious when I hired staff that had the same ethics and values that I did, which is the other key piece. Is what are you looking for when you make that transition into having people on your team that you're all in alignment? And that's the other thing. So you give people your plan or a portion of it and say, this is how we're going to operate. And if you don't like it, I'm sorry, this isn't the place for you.
Oh, okay. So you incorporate your business planning and you communicate that with your team so that that's part of your interview process when you're building a team? Okay.
Well, you're right. And, then each time as we addressed it, I eventually hired a part-time gal to do a lot of my marketing. And, okay, here's the marketing plan that I created. You're going to implement this. And I have a budget set aside. Just all I ask is when you're ready for the money to be spent, come see me and I'll write the check. She was a part-time gal, and so she did a beautiful job, and I gave her all the mechanisms that we wanted to track. Oh, she didn't need the whole plan, but she needed the portion of it to do her job. And so that's all part, but they got the mission, the values and beliefs of the business.
Yeah.
They knew.
Yeah, so that way when they're interacting on your behalf and when they're writing copy or they're hiring and working with vendors, they're representing you, and they're representing the way that you want people to be treated.
Yeah. And that was incorporated in all the job descriptions, and even the ads when I hired people, when if I ran an ad, kind of highlighted, what we're looking for so that we're all on the same page. And I recommend that to everybody. I say, together a process for them to think about as they're hiring Well, some of them will never get there. We'll never need to hire, but a lot of us in our positions that we've had if we're in corporate never had to do that.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, we're out on our own. We have to do a lot of things we've never done. And this business plan does, and everything in it will help you build that.
So could you kind of walk us through what's included in a business plan, or what are some of the essentials? I know depending on the kind of business it is, there are probably things that are in play and are not, like if it's a physical or a virtual business. So could you kind of step us through that?
Sure. We're all going to have the same pieces of a lot of it. We're going to start with our mission, our vision. What does that look like? And then we're going to get to what are your values? We're going to list our core values, but so we know what about us, and then we're going to start branching out and start looking at our competition. Who out there is doing what we're doing? And how are we different? So I spend a lot of time on looking at the competition, and then who is our ideal customer? We're going to build that avatar of what that person that we're going after to do business with looks like. So as we do all of that and get that built out, then we get into, now that we identify them, we're going to get into how are we going to reach them? And I walk through a process on, if I'm going after someone in the, say, post-retirement, looking at long-term care, I might not be looking at a 30-year-old. I might be talking to a 50 or 60-year-old or even older. And they're going to get their information different than a millennial. So we, trying to, what's the right media to reach these on? How are we going to find them and go through? We spend a majority of our time on that. And then once we get to the plan, and then we get into the other characteristics of how are we, what kind of money do we need? Where's the money coming from? Do we need money to start the business? Or are we just,
bootstrapping?
Going to find it? Yeah, I mean, we got enough money in our bank account that we can do this. And, we both know there's a lot of businesses out there that you don't need a lot of startup money.
Yeah.
As a solopreneur, and I've done most of mine that way. I've done a couple things different over my years, but
me too. Yeah.
Yeah. But, looking at all these pieces, and then so we're starting to figure out the budgets. Is this one-time money to get us going? Or is it something that's going to be on and on? And so we put together a startup and fight in a budget. And then we look at how we're going to fulfill that budget. What's our goals? Because we're going to have money coming in the door to pay the bills. And and then if you're going to go out and look for funding, we're going into some more detail that we normally wouldn't be if this is just internal use.
Yeah.
If it's just me running my business, I won't need to scale a detail into some of the stuff that a lender's going to ask you about. We're going to level on some of it. And then we're going to put all that together, and then we're going to tie that to your goals. And each section comes through. How does this look? And then any supporting documents that, like in my case, when I did the insurance business plan, like I said, I had all these different pieces. All I had to do was put them in order. And I've got the table of contents. It's a standard table of contents. And then the very last thing I tell people to write is their executive summary. Your reader's version of your business plan and what your business is about. So if you want to tell somebody, about your business, you got one page. And so I like to do it last because you're taking everything that you've written and condensing it down to 2, 3, 4 paragraphs. And that makes more sense than writing that first and trying to build on that because things change. So go through all of that and then put those supporting documents in the appendix. And it's like I say, it can be anywhere from a 1 or 2 page document up to, that novel that some of us have written, or a lot of us over the years.
Okay. And your book, from the bottom up covers that in detail, doesn't it?
Exactly. It takes
Yeah.
each piece, what's in it, and where to find some of the information. You know, when that was written in 2012, when it went,
Uh-huh.
and so things have changed. You know, there are a lot more resources out there we can use, and then but the information is still there. You know, Google becomes our best friend.
Yeah. You wrote the book From the Bottom Up, The Ultimate Guide for Business Planning and Profitability. I think you told some of that story, but explain the title and what the reader will get more from that. Why did you name it that? And tell us more about that.
You know, I was just sitting there having a conversation with some friends, and we're sitting there talking about, you know, the book and what it's all concerned to do. Looking at my history in business, I've been at the startup phase. So, you know, I'm starting at the bottom, starting this thing up. And I'm also a president of a large nonprofit board of directors. So I've covered from the bottom up to the top.
Ah,
And
okay. So you have a unique perspective on all those areas of growth from solo all the way up to major large corporations and nonprofits.
Right. We're looking at that. I mean, we have budgets in excess of $20 million right now.
Uh-huh.
And so looking at what it is from when I started my insurance career with no money up front. So I built it up to where I was when I decided to retire. And then, so I've incorporated, well, now it's 35 plus years in all these ventures as a business owner, as a member of this board of directors. And so I've taken all that knowledge that I've learned,
Mm-hmm.
and I save people time because most of them don't have 35 years to learn what I did. And so that real life experience, sharing that with them and lessons learned, like I say, you know, there's things I did early on in my career that when I look back, well, that was stupid. Why did you do that? But as you learn, and it's the resources that, you know, and the people that we meet along the way, the information that you and I have talked about, and some of our other colleagues over the years has really been a godsend to me. That I needed that 30 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, but so now I'm taking that stuff that I wish I had and giving it to this next generation of entrepreneurs and saying, here's how we're going to help you. We're learning from the bottom of the barrel, and as you build your way up to the top.
Gotcha. So you mentioned how you're sharing. Can you share a success story or two of entrepreneurs you've worked with to write your plans? And what are some of the key factors that contributed to their success, assuming they were successful?
I have, well, you have some that start out successful, then situations change. We had one that he started out with a $5 million project. And before we got the plan done, it was a $20 million project.
Ah.
And then 4 or 5 years into this whole project, getting it all up and running, you got ground level first part done, and we did it in stages. But all of a sudden, his partners walked away.
Ah.
This ended up closing, even though he was ready to keep going, but the people that were contributing to the success decided, you know, another opportunity in life came up, or whatever the situation was, that they had to step away from this project, so the project collapsed. And then I've got another client that is she's a physical therapist by trade, and she's seeing in her practice injuries from kids, you know, I call them kids, but they're high school, college kids coming in with injuries that they didn't see till people were in their 60s and 70s.
Hmm.
She developed the process and actually created devices to show how your spine moves. When you sit this way or that way, how it moves. And working on trying to see if that's available to get it patented, because it's something that she had to create on her own.
Mhm.
Oh, she has got 2 schools that are going to teach her curriculum, pilot projects.
Uh-huh.
I've been working on all this along with myself for the planning. And then she's got some other people helping her on her team that's getting into some of the intricate pieces when it comes to the actual physical therapy piece. So she's teaching these folks how to move in the proper direction, and has a way to measure that to prevent injury.
Okay, and you helped her write a plan for that?
We wrote the business plan, yeah.
Yeah. And so did she use the plan to get funding, or just to direct her
Both.
how she was building it? Both? Okay.
Both. And so we had to write a plan, her plan well enough, because at one point she was having to submit it to a major health equipment manufacturer.
Uh-huh.
And so she had to develop this plan on what all this is going to be in order to try to get them to build some of this into their equipment.
Right. And with medical devices, there are a lot of compliance issues, and you have to build things in a certain way. You have to have them. I don't remember what they call it. Not certified, but validated. You have to have a validated process. So your business planning becomes really important there, so that when you stay, this has to have a requirement. It has to be documented, and you have to go through this painstaking process. You have to have change control and change management in place, and all this documentation. So that's an arduous task to do from the seat of your pants.
Yeah. Well, there's no way you could do it. So she came to me, and she had, like I said, the other team helping her, people on her team, with all that validation and collecting all the data and analyzing it. So I said, all right, you give me, the process and results, and then I incorporate it into her plan. And that was one of those rather thick plans, because we had to have all that supporting material.
Yeah.
Is now, it's been a process of 2 or 3 years to get everything moving forward, but she's starting to see all the rewards for all the hard work.
Yeah.
And and I learned a lot about this whole physical activity stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like I say, I learned about that, and we spent a lot of time doing that. And one thing with my plans, when I do that, I give it to them in a Word document. So next year, or whenever they have to update it, your mission, vision, a lot of stuff isn't going to change. All they got, a lot of it has changed their goals and their budgets.
Mm-hmm.
So they go in, they type it, now we're done for next year.
Right.
And then,
so go ahead.
Well, and that way, I wanted the ease of keeping up to date. I don't want people to put all this time and more effort into it and throw it on a shelf.
Gotcha. Yeah. What about the solo entrepreneur who's just starting out, who doesn't have 3 years? They basically have, let's use me as an example. I have a full-time job, and I have a part-time coaching business, and I'm transitioning from full-time employee to part-time employee, into full-time coach from part-time coach. And so I'm making that transition right now. And I have clients who don't have jobs, who are just starting out, and they said, I'm going for it. What advice would you have for them who's just starting out to get started? And these people don't have, and I don't have, years to wait for it. We all have goals to get up and running. We have to prove that our business can sustain us, and reach those goals that we're looking for in a short time. So what advice would you give for someone who's just starting out?
When I talk to people that are in that situation, I got this great idea for a business.
Yeah.
I want to move it forward. Okay. So what I like to do, I've got a whole series of stuff and it's in my book to kind of weed that out, talking about, one, why do they want to start the business? Because I have found over the years that there's a lot of people that want to start a business for the wrong reason.
Yeah.
They think it's going to be, I can go play golf every day and I'm going to make all this money without putting in the work. And those, tend to not be around long. And so I like to get into discussion with them, and I always tell them to bring in their significant other, or if they got a business partner, to do it together, answer these questions, looking at that idea. Why do you think that idea will make a good business? Kind of get their thinking out. And then, do they have an idea what it's going to take to start it? I find people that they'll think about, but they haven't taken it to that next level. Oh, I want to move this business forward. I worked with a guy in California, company he worked for shut down. It left a big hole in his industry. So him and one of his colleagues from that company went together and they were going to start up a business. And as I was working with him, I asked him, I says, have you put pen to paper in what it's going to take to get up and running? You've got inventory, you've got a warehouse, you've got, A, B, C, E, F, G, and on through. And he says, no. I says, when you get that done, let's talk again. Because what I found is it helps people to understand that, even though I don't have this big equipment or brick and mortar, but even a small solopreneur, you might need a new computer. You might need, some small investments, a couple $1,000.
Yeah.
But have an idea what it's going to take. And then the other thing is, you're making that transition from full-time to part-time and upgrading to coaching, right? How much time can you set aside without affecting your family life?
Right.
And so that's why I always say, talk it over with your spouse, your significant other, because all of a sudden I'm going to make a decision that's going to help my business start up and move forward, but it's going to be a detriment to my family. If you're going to spend any amount of money at all, your partner is going to want to know. I mean, if I into my savings account without telling my wife I was taking some money out and what it was for, I'd probably been in divorce court a long time ago.
So we know that's not the case.
No, that's one thing I've been very fortunate about, is because we talk this over constantly, what's going on, and she's well aware of the steps. And so I want to make sure people have that same benefit, because our family is our biggest cheerleaders.
Yeah.
And they help keep
Hopefully.
us. Well, that's what I want to make sure.
Yeah.
Find out that my spouse says I'm all wet before I go out and invest hours and hours on end.
Right.
Start walking through this process to make sure they're comfortable with investing time and money. If they got to go out and borrow, or maybe take out a home equity loan to get things going for their stuff, and what the ramifications are if they default because the business didn't take off.
Right.
So talk a lot about that. Just start with the real basics. Put it down, what it's going to take and how are you going to make the money? What's your product or service that you're going to provide to fill a gap? And how is that going to be different than the person down the street doing it? We'd all like to think that we're the difference. And, in some sense we are. But just because we're nice people, it doesn't mean everybody's going to rush to our door. So we got to see what they think about our product or service that they can't get down the street. Going back to MCI, if you had a company that doesn't have those issues with customer service, okay, you're standing stronger behind your customers than the other. So things like that come in for the follow-up. So we get into a lot of discussion early days on that before we spend any money, and I go through that discussion with people on our discovery call. And I have turned
Right.
people, this is a great hobby. That's where it should be. Because you're not going to generate enough money to fill that income gap that you want to fill. Unless you're working 60 hours a week. And then, on top of that. So we get into those discussions, looking at frame of mind and what it's going to take, how is this going to affect your family before you get into it and learn the hard way.
Gotcha. And you can find all this in your book?
A lot of that discussion is in there, especially the new one that we just released that we'll talk here towards the end. But all these questions that I ask are right there.
Wow. Well, that's great.
Well,
as we wrap up this discussion, Dave, it's been an education for me. I need to put pen to paper and get my wife involved, and she's my greatest cheerleader. My bride, we're celebrating our second anniversary today, or this last Monday was May 1st was our second anniversary, and we're on our honeymoon, a third honeymoon, which is fabulous. She's my greatest supporter and cheerleader, and we've had these discussions, and we're talking about putting things to paper, and that's what we're going to be doing this weekend, I guess.
Not a honeymoon.
No, yeah, that's what I said when we get back from the honeymoon. But Dave, what are 3 things our listeners can do right away to put these ideas into action?
Well, first one is start sitting down and having a discussion with your spouse or significant other, and then write it down. And that's the first step people forget is, we got to write this out. And it doesn't have to be fancy, but write it out. That's the other one, in making sure that what you're putting down is not a pie in the sky. Yeah, we all like to say we're going to make millions of dollars from the start, but start with that, making sure your numbers are achievable. There's, and then if you needed assistance, ask for help. Shoot email, go to my website. It's all there. You can just send me a question. A lot of resources on there that they can pick up and use, but don't be afraid to ask for help for anybody that is in your circle, or reach out to other people. I mean, we're just a click away.
Right. Well, Dave, thank you so much. Dave Brown, the Business Plan Answer Man. Thank you, my friend, for being on the show today. And Dave is offering a free gift. This Let's Grow Your Business. Get a free copy of the Create a Business Plan That Works for You, which is a $97 value. Go to www.businessplan.answerman.com. Thanks again, Dave. I appreciate it. And remember, faith and action go hand in hand. So put the pedal to the metal. And until next time on the Lead Machine Growth Show, I'm Paul Guyan.
Thank you for tuning in to the Lead Machine Growth Show with Paul Guyan, where we show you how to tackle your tech, master your message, and design your dream so that you can transform your vision into reality. Remember to visit our website at www.leadmachinegrowthshow.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Lead Machine Growth Show.